Okay. Actually centered this time. Okay, so The Wisdom of Insecurity, by Alan Watts. A pretty short read, to the point, but expansive too. It tackles a lot of different concepts, different philosophies, different questions of like what it means to actually live. And I was a little bit wary of approaching Watts in the past, just because I kind of got like a self-help kind of vibe out of him. I kind of, as much as I don't like the word vibe, but I did get that kind of impression where he's like, is he like somebody that's, and he himself said that he was in tongue-in-cheek maybe to a degree, but he said like, I am a philosophical entertainer. And I will say that I have heard lecture or speeches he gave, and he's actually, sorry, I can't speak. Luckily, because he passed away in 1973, I think, and at the age of in his late 50s, I believe. Comfortably young death, I think we can agree. But I think he was there's a good amount of stuff that people were able to record and actually keep, so that's pretty nice. Like, you can go on YouTube and find tons of footage, of him actually speaking. And I have heard of some interesting things, even when I was still kind of skeptical with a chip on my shoulder kind of way of his ideas. I thought maybe he's a little too new age, but actually turns out he's more perennial, I think is the name. Perennialism is the name of the movement, and I think it gathers from Eastern mysticism a little bit, but he has lots of Eastern ideas too. But he said something interesting about philosophy, the fact that it's akin to a doctor applying, you only need a doctor insofar that you are actually suffering. So once you get the cure from a doctor, let's say you have some kind of leukemia and you actually go through treatment, you actually don't need the doctor anymore. In a very much the same way, philosophy is you only need the philosopher in proportion to how much you need the answers, and once you actually kind of get that, once you kind of use that, you don't really need them anymore. So I don't know how much I would take that to a logical conclusion maybe, but I think there's some pretty good meat in there, meat and potatoes in there. Food for thought is the phrase I'm trying to think of. But yeah, The Wisdom of Insecurity, the main thing, there's a longer title. It's how, for the current age, how to, I'll figure it out right now. The Wisdom of Insecurity, a message for the age of anxiety. So, he uses this term, the age of anxiety, again and again. And some of it was a little bit too, the way he used these words and the terminology, respective terminology, got a little bit lost in the digestive, somewhere in the ingestive form, rather, when I was trying to figure out what he was getting at, because it's a little bit, he was drawing from kind of a little bit of classical kind of analytic philosophy, and a little bit referring to being or ontology and all this stuff, and a little bit of, that's a classic tradition, I guess, Western, and then he uses a lot of Eastern words as well. So it's I liked how he was, and this was published in 1951, so I was I think it was pretty, it was pretty on the ball, I think. It was something you could almost imagine being, published today, even, and kind of fitting in the ranks of kind of, books and all, these different kind of books that you on self-development and all that today. But yeah, I think the main thing he's talking about in insecurity is that which it's our age is basically completely at a loss of what to do, and we have no idea where to turn to. So that's it. That's basically anxiety. In a way, that's kind of Kierkegaard talked about that too. This kind of looming dread or despair is the key word that he used. And I said it's a similar thing as that what Watts is getting at is that we're either we're not like he's saying, like there are a ton of religions like in the past like kind of capitalize off this idea of like of insecurity. Like even the Judeo-Christian one, he was saying like Jesus, the Son of Man, like he says like in some of the Gospels, maybe all four, he was saying that like the Son of Man, everybody else has a place to like to sleep at night, but the Son of Man has nowhere he can lay his head. So that he was saying like that's a very insecure kind of intuition. Like it's coming out of fear. It's like coming out of there's like no way. No, like I can kind of see that because it's like Rene Girard like was talking about the anthropology and history of like not just the axial age, but like beyond that too. Like the whole arc of like religion has been tons of scapegoats. And I'm actually not finished the book Sacrifice by him yet, but he's already addressed like a lot of points about like the Indians and like the Vedic kind of ways. Look at the I think it was like the Ashura tribe, and like there's another tribe that was warring each other, and the way that they war, the way that they kind of would come to terms with it was by sacrifice, by blood sacrifice. It's like somebody. The point is that somebody at the end of the day, somebody has to have spilled blood to be able to keep, for salvation, for mankind, for like this great cosmic sin to be washed away. And that's kind of like a lot of fear. Like that's a tribal mindset, but it's like it's still with us today. It's like we kind of have this hunter-gatherer kind of tribal mindset of being, somebody has to sacrifice something. So I get that what Watts is getting at. He's saying like we're very on edge, and you can kind of feel it. Just like we're on edge. We don't know what to do about it because in the old days we don't know. I think we'd be able to sacrifice something for it. Like in Jesus, I think in Girard's sense, because he was a Christian, as far as from my understanding, and he said that the way that you put a stop to that, Jesus put a stop to that, was by giving his life and kind of was ending this mimetic sacrificial thing that just kept going around in circles, because that's human nature. We need to kind of do that. So Watts is talking about that, and Watts is saying like, well, it's actually not I don't think you find that. And just so you know, he doesn't mention Girard. That's just something I found weird. But it's like it just kind of reminded me of what he was talking about. But I don't think Watts was saying like you have to kind of embrace the unknown, because like the fact is about life is that you don't know it. Like there's things that are in our immediate knowledge, empirical things that are a priori, a priori, I think. And then these are the things that are true on both sides of the universe, type of thing. And then there are things that we just naturally don't know, and that we have to kind of embrace. Like we have to embrace that. I think his way of saying that is like kind of embrace the meaninglessness in being, and he talks a lot about like the present moment too. It's like this thing where it's like we're constantly kind of yearning for the next thing. It's like he was saying like, think about like a man who knows that they're dying, and like if you tell him that, like he's gonna die, like a month or two in the future, that's going to like it would hang upon his head that like this thing is hanging on upon his head, the insecurity of constantly being like, oh crap, I'm gonna die. So he's concentrating like everything. He can't enjoy a meal, he can't do anything. But like the fact is that the very knowledge that he's going to die, from a doctor's point of view, doesn't actually take any experiment. It actually doesn't actually physically take away anything. All it is like a mental kind of mindset of like, oh crap, and this happens too with like memento mori. It's like a healthy, maybe the few things that like kind of medieval kind of monastic Christians or like Carmelite Christians and St. John of the Cross too, where like a lot of them suffered so much, and like a way of like a way of keeping yourself humble is by remembering that you are mortal. So that's I think everybody can agree on too, like the existentialist, the phenomenologist, or whatever. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. It's probably more thoughts on that, but I think I'm just gonna end it at that. I think that, and this is the only thing I've read by Alan Watts so far, but I'd like to definitely read more stuff by him. But yeah, definitely, I think there's an, like, I think we can all find some solace in the fact that there's, and there's a Nietzschean type of thing to that too. It's like, in the face of meaningless. It's like, yes, sure, the life. He did actually have a postmodern kind of point of view, right? Like it was like, yeah, it's everything's not esoteric, but everything is I think the word was perspicacious. I think perceptual. Everything is based in perception. So everything. That's why all the postmodernists they love that about Nietzsche. It's because he said this. Like he made the claim, and he was like he was the first to kind of dictate it. I think, like, or at least one of the first. Aside maybe Kierkegaard. But in his sense, it was more like, well, rather than losing hope, being crestfallen, and just kind of just depressing and despairing and doing that, and Kierkegaard's way was like, take the leap of faith. Everything, it's either everything on the stage is completely means something, and it's like, I think it was Michael Sugre had a really good thing on Kierkegaard that kind of whittled it down into something really easy to understand, a lot easier than my attempts at reading either or, which are definitely needs a reread. But yeah, it's Nietzsche was more like, instead of God, there's no proof of God. God is dead. There's no his point of view. Let's instead of going the way of the nihilist and the decadents and being totally loose cannon, just do whatever you want type of thing, artistically and both spiritually or whatever. Why not just make this to be like the best version of yourself? Deify yourself, do something. And one of the reasons why he also thought that like socialism was like something like the deification of the state, I think, because it was so it basically a lot of these, a lot of what happens is like it has to do with ideology, and like whatever you focus your ideology in, you're totally kind of balls to the wall, this is it kind of thing. And I think that's a part of the moment. That's a part of the insecurity. Like, we need something outside of ourselves because we're so like to hold on to something greater than themselves. So we see people, like we see figures, or like charismatic. It like describes like the great charismatic figures too. It's like, why do people go to Rastafarianism, or people who talk a lot about reincarnation and being like, I'm the, or someone like Osho or whatever, and in Marie, I think, what was it called? It was called Rajesh Panoram, I think, and like everybody flocked out there, and like there's a whole Netflix documentary that I have to watch. But the reason is because we actually can't face our own insecurities, and put ourselves at rest in that sense. And with there's just, I just think it's interesting, the different ways of kind of living out those beliefs. So yeah, that's all I have for today.